This is Stick. It's 11 p.m. He opened his phone to check one thing 40 minutes ago. He couldn't tell you one thing he'd seen, but he could not stop scrolling. We spend years of our lives in here, and nobody ever decided to.
But 2,000 years ago, a man wrote the exact warning we needed before any of this existed.
So what if you handed a smartphone to Seneca in ancient Rome? Stick had a theory. The oldest wisdom on Earth versus the newest weapon for your attention. And he knew exactly who to test it on. The man who literally wrote the book on wasting time.
Seneca, Roman Stoic, advisor to an emperor, author of On the Shortness of Life.
If anyone's mind could survive the algorithm, it was his. Probably. Maybe. So Stick pressed the button and fell backward through 2,000 years.
He landed in a sunlit garden in Rome. Warm stone, olive trees, absolute total quiet.
No notifications, no glowing rectangles, just an old man writing with all the time in the world. Stick had never seen anyone look so unbothered. It was almost unsettling. Seneca looked up. He did not seem surprised by the strange figure in a red scarf. He simply said, "You look like a man who is in a great hurry to be somewhere else." Stick asked what he was writing. Seneca held up the scroll. On the Shortness of Life. "It is not that we have a short time to live," he said, "but that we waste so much of it." "Life is long enough," he went on, "if you knew how to use it. Most people simply don't." Stick almost laughed. This sweet old man had no idea what was coming for his species.
Because Stick had brought a small, glowing test, and he reached into his pocket.
He held out the phone. In that warm, golden garden, the screen glowed a cold, alien blue. "This," said Stick, "is what we made with all the time you're so worried about." Seneca took it carefully, the way you'd hold a small, sleeping animal that might bite. Then the screen lit up. "You have 47 notifications." And it began. 47 little voices, all demanding his attention at exactly the same moment. Stick showed him the basics. You just touch it, and it gives you something. A video, a song, a stranger yelling, a dancing animal, a war, a sandwich, in 4 seconds. Seneca's calm, 2,000-year-old face did something it rarely did. It flinched. "What," he asked slowly, "decides which of these things appears?" Stick grinned. Good question. "A machine decides," said Stick. "It studies you, and it picks whatever keeps you holding it." Stick showed him the scroll. "It never ends," he said. "There is no bottom. It is infinite." Seneca, who had spent his life thinking about limits, stared at the one thing with none. "Where does it lead?" he asked. Stick shrugged. "Nowhere. That's the point. It just continues." "In my time," Seneca said, "even the longest road had an end. A man could finish a journey."
"This road," he said quietly, "is built so that you can never, ever arrive."
Stick explained the tricks. "Every buzz," he said, "gives your brain a tiny hit of reward. You never know which buzz will be the good one, so you check again and again."
When one video ends, the next plays itself. You never have to choose to continue.
Seneca frowned. So it removes the single moment where a person might decide to stop? Precisely, said Stick. Seneca set the phone down for a moment, as if it had grown heavy. It is, he murmured, the most patient enemy of attention I have ever seen. Seneca asked the question a Stoic always asks: who profits from my distraction? Someone built this. Why? Stick explained, your attention is sold. Every second you watch, someone somewhere is paid for it.
You are not the customer, said Stick. You are the product. Your time is the thing being sold. Seneca went very still. In Rome, a man who stole your purse was sent to prison.
But a man who steals your hours, openly, for profit, him you thank. You call it free.
Nothing that costs you your life is free, Seneca said. That is only a price you have been taught not to see.
And then, because he was curious and because he was human, Seneca picked it back up. I will simply observe it, he said. A philosopher can study a thing without being caught by it. Stick said nothing. Stick had heard a person say that exact sentence many, many times. The shadows in the garden moved. The fountain's light shifted from gold to orange to gray. Seneca had not moved in an hour. The greatest mind on self-discipline gently was scrolling. Then he stopped. He looked at the dark sky, then at the phone, and his face went pale. I have just given away an afternoon, he whispered. An afternoon of the only life I will ever have. People guard their money, he said. They lock their gold away. But their time? They hand it to anyone. It is the one thing, he said, where it is honorable to be greedy, and we are endlessly generous. Stick had read those words in a book. Hearing the man say them in the dark hit differently. Stick decided to show him the scale. He summoned the numbers into the air above the garden. The average person, said Stick, now spends about 7 hours a day looking at a screen. Over a life, Stick went on, that is around 17 years. Awake, staring, scrolling. Seneca sat down slowly on the marble step. 17 years, he repeated, of one life. In my entire philosophy, he said, I never imagined a thief that patient, or that men would invite him in. And it wasn't only time. Stick showed him what the feed actually does to a mind all day. Outrage, because anger keeps you watching, a new thing to fear every few seconds. Other people's perfect lives so that yours feels small by comparison, on purpose. Seneca watched it all. This, he said, does not feed a soul. It keeps a soul restless, so it never leaves. A restless mind, he said, is the easiest mind to sell to, and the hardest one to live inside. Then Seneca smiled, for the first time. I know this thing, he said. In Rome, we had it too. When the powerful wanted a quiet, harmless crowd, they gave them spectacle, free bread, and games. Panem and circenses, he said, bread in circuses, so the people would never notice their lives slipping by. I once wrote that I left the games crueler and emptier than I arrived. The crowd pulls you down to its noise. Your feed, he said, nodding at the phone, is a coliseum that fits in one hand, and it never closes. Stick realized the feed had invented nothing. It had only made the coliseum infinite and
personal. Then Seneca grew very quiet. He held the phone in one hand and his hourglass in the other.
A man tells himself, Seneca said, that he will truly live later, when he's less busy, when he retires. But what, he asked, guarantees him that later? Nothing. There is only the time he is spending right now. So when this glowing thing takes an hour, he said, it is not taking time. It is taking the only life he has. Stick had no joke for that. The time traveler just stood in the dark, holding his own silent phone. Then Seneca did something that made the hair on Stick's neck stand up. He picked up his old scroll.
I wrote this, he said, 2,000 years before your machine. And yet, listen.
You live as if you will live forever. The fragility of life never enters your head.
You waste your days as though your supply were endless, while each one that passes is gone for good.
Stick stared. Seneca had described the doomscroll perfectly. Before electricity, before the wheel of the feed. The machine is new, Seneca said. The weakness it feeds on is very, very old. Men have always fled from their own quiet, he said. Your device simply makes the fleeing effortless. The cure is the same as it always was, he said. Decide that your time is worth guarding. Then guard it. You cannot add hours to your life, he said, but you can stop handing them away for free. He handed the phone back to Stick. Take your test back, he said. I have answered it. And then Stick was home. Same dark room, same couch, same phone in his hand. The feed was still there, still infinite, still waiting exactly where he'd left it 40 minutes ago. Seneca's warning had survived 2,000 years, an empire's fall, and the whole of history. The only question left was whether it could survive the next 10 seconds before Stick's thumb moved again. Because the ancient cure was never the hard part. The hard part is putting the phone down, now, while you still can. Stick life. Next time, what if you could buy back the years you've already lost?